Hello, as I was already telling, on April 22nd there was a broadcast of international online forum Global Crisis, There is a Way Out, and me and the team with which I was working, we were preparing a film for this forum about the earthquake in Turkey. And I would like to tell why actually we decided to show this film, because there were questions like that during the broadcast. So the first reason is that what happened there on the suffered territories and what people lived through is actually just a minor part of what each and every of us will need to go through in case in the nearest couple of years we will not choose to change the current format of society, the current consumerist format of society, and if we don't resolve the issue with climate, because this will be happening on all territories. And the second thing is that it shows the absurdness of our current society, because you will notice which devices were used in order to rescue people from the rubble and to look for them, and how much time it takes to make such decisions for INGOs to give some help, and what actually we are using in order to kill each other, to fight each other, in order to support the wars which are currently happening on our planet. How much efforts we spend for what is killing us instead, if compared to what is saving us. What all and each of us can do in order to change it, please watch the forum yourself. Get acquainted with this information, share it with everyone you know, and also it would be good if you could show in any way that you support creative society. For example, you can put your logo on your social network, on your pages. You can wear clothes with this logo, so in any way just show that you support this. And so I'm glad to share the film that we created for the forum, so please watch it.
On the night of February 6th, there was a devastating earthquake of magnitude 7.8 in Turkey and Syria. In the afternoon, there was another one with a magnitude of 7.5. We are in Turkey. We talked to people who survived this tragedy. Everyone was living a normal life, making plans for tomorrow, getting the kids ready for school. None of them expected that, and in 2 minutes, everything was over. Total zero. You have to start your life all over again, and thank God if you're still alive, but for many people, life was over in an instant.
I woke up my family. As we were going down the stairs, the concrete already began to fall.
I opened the window and said, "There is smoke everywhere." I thought we would die. I couldn't see because there was smoke, crack, crack, crack. Windows were bursting.
The houses, they fell right before our eyes. And there was so much dust, as if a bomb exploded somewhere nearby.
Communication with these people made a strong impression, and we must pay tribute to them. It was impossible to listen to it. I mean, it was very hard psychologically to listen to it, yet they survived it.
The buildings collapsed. Everyone outside was in such a hell. People who had left their parents inside and were unable to get their children out during this time were crying for help.
One man who we interviewed lived on the 5th floor. He said the house just collapsed. When the earthquake started, I ran out onto the balcony, and 2 minutes later, I just stepped on the ground.
The apartment building next to me completely flattened to the ground. 7 floors of apartments flattened to the ground. There was a woman and a man. The woman was lying on the ground crying, "Give me my baby back." There was a girl. The girl was on the concrete on top of the ruins. I picked her up, but she was not alive.
I heard people screaming. People kept on screaming under the rubble of the apartment building. Those balconies are piled up on top of each other, intertwined. I mean, they were piled up in such a terrible way, trapping babies inside. They remained in those collapsed houses forever.
Not a single building remained. Hatay was ruined. Hatay was destroyed. We had been searching everywhere for 2 days. There was no residents in any of the buildings.
I've never seen such an earthquake in my life.
I don't think there was a single person we talked to who didn't mention that someone in their family. One guy whom we interviewed said he deleted 200 contacts from his phone book after the earthquake. 200. Officially, they claim that 50,000 people died there. 20,000 buildings fell to the ground, and 180,000 buildings were substantially damaged. Let's take these 20,000 buildings, let's say 5-floor buildings. Every building had 5 floors, right? There were 3 apartments on each floor. In total, there are 375,000 apartments, and people lived in each of them. Moreover, the Turks traditionally live in large families. Also, eyewitnesses told us that in the first days after the earthquake, they could hear a lot of screaming. They could hear a lot of cries of people who were left under the rubble. And with each day, these cries became fewer and fewer. There was a picture all over the internet. I am sure it was not the only case, where a father was sitting and holding his child's hand. His little daughter, who was under the rubble, he was interviewed later and said, "I could feel her hand getting cold." So he was literally sitting there, holding his daughter's hand and could feel her dying. Imagine this, a mother, a woman who is saving her children, driving down the road, trying to get out while buildings are collapsing around her.
I put the kids in my car, but this time the roads were blocked. Things, stones and rubble were falling from the roofs, but we didn't even pay attention to them. I mean, my only goal was to clear the road as soon as possible and leave with my children.
And there are many stories of such kind, unfortunately, to my great regret.
Look, my 3 children and my wife are lying on this construction site. This is the 3rd day of the earthquake. My children have already died here from the cold. Isn't it a shame that no one hears our voice?
No one will come to help us. We're helpless. The caller says, "All right, we'll send them." They come. They don't do anything. They just take photos and leave.
When the rescuers arrived, what kind of help did they provide?
I didn't see any rescuers. I left from there on, the 5th day. I didn't see any rescuers.
Many people being under the rubble recorded videos, wrote posts, and posted them on social networks to let their family and friends know about what had happened to them, to give information to rescuers about the specific geolocation, the place where they were. But unfortunately, for unknown reasons, these posts were deleted by social networks.
Can't express my feelings to you. I'm under the rubble, as you can see. And maybe 2 or 3 or 4 more families. Do you hear the screams of our neighbors?
In other words, having the opportunity, having the people, using the technical potential of our society and human resource, we could send people and save thousands and tens of thousands of lives if we were focused on this. But no one does that. They do. I don't want in any way to insult those fellows who sacrificed their personal time, flew in, rushed, helped out, and made every effort. But we talked to them as well. They have a lot of questions too. They're using some kind of prehistoric mechanical tools to save people. Meanwhile, we have everything for killing people. We have thermal imaging cameras, we have missiles and tanks, we have cutting-edge technology. We can find a sniper 15 kilometers away with a thermal imaging camera. But we can't find a person lying in front of you because we don't have the equipment to do it. Are we normal people after this?
We worked in the cities of Gaziantep and Erdagi. The whole team started to work at once, looking through all the rooms, all the cracks, all the voids. I crawled inside and heard someone wheezing, and I started searching. I kept crawling. I was crawling towards the sound, and this sound turned out to be right in front of me. I started digging, and eventually I found a person. I dug him out, and I just couldn't bear it. Tears started to flow at once. I don't even know how to put these feelings into words. I started shouting to everybody. I found one. Immediately, everyone rushed there, bringing all kinds of equipment. We had to move him a little bit, but when we were moving him, he was screaming, and my heart was breaking from his moaning. He was crushed. His arm was crushed by a huge slab weighing I don't know how many tons. We finally hollowed out that slab, and one of the guys looked inside, and it turned out he was holding another person's hand. Then we looked further, and there was someone else lying there, but he was already dead. A huge amount of work was done. They brought an acoustic device, such a device that listens to sounds. And before it listens, a man with a loudspeaker would shout in Turkish, "Is anyone alive? If there is, respond, knock, scratch. We are going to listen to you now." At that moment, all the equipment, everything that can make sounds, even people should remain still, not even shuffle their feet on the ground. Everything, literally everything, freezes around, and they start listening. If the rescuers hear something, they start digging somewhere in that direction. And it just turned out that there was a person who was deaf-mute. Can you imagine? And he just wouldn't even hear it. And some survivors told me, every time we fell asleep, we thought, that's it, we'll probably never wake up again. Just imagine their situation. And they were there for, for many days. They were just freezing to death.
One of the eyewitnesses told us that those who survived envied those who were dead. That's a direct quote. Why? Because those people who died immediately, they died. And according to one Turkish seismologist, Ahmet Erkan, 180,000 people were left under the rubble. 180,000 people who were under piles of concrete, with their limbs crushed and broken, their internal organs torn apart. It's painful to even talk about. But they had not been helped for weeks. In some villages, there was no help at all. 20,000 rescuers were sent from 80 countries. That's one person per house. How can one person have to dismantle an entire house to save those who were under the rubble?
We've just passed near one of the houses. There are 200 people still alive under those two buildings. They have been screaming for several days, but rescuers can't get to these people. There's not enough of them because several cities are in ruins.
It took them 2 weeks to assess the needs. Imagine somebody under the rubble is waiting for NGOs and UN agencies to assess their needs. We know what they need now.
What was happening in the towns struck by the earthquake in the days that followed? Well, imagine this. A completely destroyed town. No infrastructure, no working hospitals or clinics, no police, no law and order. There are looters rampaging everywhere. That also happened, unfortunately. There's no water.
We couldn't find any bread. Bakeries were closed. Everyone was on their own.
There was an elderly couple. We helped them the best we could. I asked him, "Why are you living in the street? Didn't the state give you a tent?" He said, "No, my son. All tents have already been handed out. No one around us here has given us anything. We're waiting."
They're looters, there are thieves. A person died in Malatya, they took the ring off his finger. Such things also happen. People are in fear for their lives.
Now I'm saying this, and someone is sitting there watching it on TV. Whether it's on TV, on the phone, or on a laptop, it doesn't matter. And for you, it's just an image. It's a movie, but damn it, these are real people. They are just like you. And if there are loved ones, relatives, friends near you, look to the left, look to the right, look them in the eyes. They are the same kind of people, and as long as you watch and think that this is just a YouTube video, just an image, it doesn't sink in. But when you talk to these people, you realize that every story you see on YouTube is a human life just like yours. That was simply abandoned to the mercy of fate. Abandoned by us. We, the survivors, abandoned them to the mercy of fate. Why? Because we don't build the creative society. Because we support the consumerist format. We don't do a damn thing. We're sitting and thinking that it won't affect us. They also sat and thought the same.
Fires are burning everywhere. People are sitting by the fires. Soldiers are walking around with rifles. They're looters. Houses are destroyed. When the breeze blows, you smell dead bodies, corpses. Someone is having a nervous breakdown. I can't describe to you what's happening here. It's so scary. And Judgment Day will be even scarier.
The situation is complicated, but again, we are to blame for this situation. We are to blame for the consumerist format. We are to blame for the fact that we do not take the necessary, quick, and effective actions to prevent this. And we're throwing people into the clutches of this Cerberus, which is just tearing them apart, and people have nowhere to go.
There is no refuge for us, except that we fulfill our basic role as humans.
They pulled out a baby the other day. 128 hours later, they pulled out a baby owl from under the rubble. I saw his innocent face, and it touched me so much. So many people are dying. I wish people would realize this at least a little bit. I wish they would wake up a little and see where the world is heading. I wish they would be united and all this wouldn't be happening. I mean, you know. I'm a bit emotional.
Why are people dying? Why are people dying from climate change? Because we don't know the truth. Because we don't know what affects the climate. And if we don't know what affects it, we don't know how catastrophic it is. And thus we can't oppose it with anything.
Before the quake, I was working with Barry from the Creative Society. And after the quake, the whole scenery reminded me of the videos and all the facts and truths and all the reports that were published by the Creative Society. What we were speaking about, in theory, we lived in practice. And I hope the whole world will not see what we saw that day.
In this earthquake, the Turkish nation lost a great number of people, unfortunately. We are simply obliged to make sure that this does not happen again. And we do have this opportunity. We can save human lives. But this is only possible in the Creative Society. Any person, if they are a human being, if they have at least an ounce of conscience and honor, they are obliged to join the participants of the Creative Society project and do everything in their power, make maximum efforts, maximum use of their capabilities in order to save the lives of those who are still alive and whom the Cerberus has not reached yet. And we must remember that his clutch is threatening each of us right this second, and where it will strike next time, we do not know.